Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of The Usual Place. Now earlier this week, Singapore's food scene lost another homegrown name. Prive Group announced that it was closing all its restaurants, making it the latest casualty in what feels like a never-ending list of F&B spots shutting down this year. Now today I want to try and find out what's really going on. Is it just about rent hikes alone? And could it be that we, the diners, are part of the problem, always chasing the next hot concept? Well, my two guests for today basically eat, sleep and breathe all things F&B. So let me introduce them to you. First up, my colleague and friend and ST Online food editor, Eunice, who has reported about the industry for about 15 years now. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Finally, to have you on.
Yes, happy to be here. Thank you.
And next to you on the couch is Bjorn, chef owner of Artichoke and Smalls in New Baru, who says he has been cooking for 22 years, playing masak now.
Pretending how to cook for the last 22 years.
Okay, welcome to the show, guys. And I want to start by going back to my question about Prive Group being, the latest in a string of F&B closures. What's really going on? I think the frequent headlines about big chains and local eateries closing have made people sit up and wonder, who's next actually? Because I'm thinking like, if this place closes one of its outlets, is it next? But is it a rent problem, as people always say? They point the fingers like, landlords raising rent, but is it that?
Ooh.
I'm looking at you, Bjorn.
Okay.
You're in the industry.
Okay. I'll tell you what, rent is a big part of what we pay for, but rent is also something that we can choose. So there's ways to walk away from unfavorable agreements without even signing the tenancy agreement, But if you are a new brand and you really want certain kind of visibility, you want to be on this street or you want to be in that mall, then I suppose you could fall into the trap of, signing up with a landlord who's not quite in line with your vision or in line with a long-term win-win situation for the both of you. So rent is just one of the problems, but I guess there are other problems, and rent tends to be the one that's easily the scapegoat. People tend to just scapegoat everything on rent. There's so much more problems than just rent.
So how much of a percentage of your business, because you run 2 restaurants here, how much of it is actually part of how much you pay each month?
So I've run 7 restaurants in Singapore and another 5 overseas. Compared to overseas, rents in Singapore are much, much higher. In Singapore, depending on the kind of concept you're going for, if you're a small independent sort of restaurant, you're in a shop house along a street or what, you might be paying up to 15% of your sales on rent. But if you're on a shopping mall, where rents are a little bit higher, you're working on a model where you have a base rent plus a percentage of your sales that contributes to the landlord, you might be looking at an overall of 20-25% of rent. So I've done consulting for various clients as well who are happy to pay up to 25% of their sales in rent, and cut back on other things. But I myself try to keep my rent below 12% of my sales in my own businesses.
So what else is driving this problem of businesses closing down, if you say it's not just a rent problem?
Well, the ones that are closing because of rents, I believe them. They are closing because of rents. So maybe what happens is that the rent they signed up for was okay with them, but they didn't lock in a cap on the increase. And this is what's seen very frequently, right? So I had a good friend from many years ago who had a very well-known bar in town, in Chinatown. And I won't mention her or her bar, just to keep them anonymous, but they were paying $11,000 in rent every month, which was a very fair rate, right? The rents usually work in Singapore on a something plus something basis, so 3 plus 3, for example. What that means is that you lock in this rate for 3 years, and then after 3 years is up, you are given the opportunity to extend for another 3 years. This is what 3 plus 3 means. It could be a 4 plus 4, it could be a 2 plus 2, but 3 plus 3 in that case, she paid $11,000 for the first 3 years, and at the next 3 years, she was subject to market rate upon a renewal if she wanted to renew, right? So when the first 3 years was up, the landlord came in and said, I want $33,000 now.
That's 3 times.
That's 3 times, exactly.
But so where's this basis coming from? Because Eunice, you're shaking your head. When you hear this, what are you thinking of?
This happened even during COVID, right? Like during the pandemic, I had so many people.
Before.
Yeah, who were saying that, instead of trying to help us, right? You're increasing our rents, and then everyone was dealing with all these like other costs, right? So it's like manpower was a very big issue, still is a big issue, and so I also think part of the reason why you have many closing is because, like you mentioned, right? If I'm there for 3+3, I feel like last time maybe people will try to just hang in there for another 3, the letter 3, if they find some way to, make the rent work somehow, do their math differently.
His friends borrowed. The rent went up by 3 times.
Yeah,
Like, where
there
did
are
that...
people who...
And there are people who will pay.
will pay.
As in
Okay.
business
Yeah.
owners who will pay.
Yeah.
She had to. I'll tell you why she had to. And this is one thing that I think that everyone listening would be, why would she pay that plus 33, right? I'll tell you why. Because people don't break even on their investment in the first 3 years in Singapore. Okay? When you've opened a business, you put in investment into renovation, facilities, services, equipment, and, things like your architect fee, your designer fees, all your licensing and all that. And usually the break-even horizon in Singapore is 3 to 4 years, meaning that first of 3 to 4 years, whatever profits you make are there to pay back for your investment. Now, if your lease goes up, or if your lease sees that plus sometime before you break even, you cannot just pack up and go. She was not agreeable with the 33,000, but had she packed up and gone at the time, she hadn't broken even. So
It will
where
be a
can she go
cycle.
to?
She will have to start again.
She had to start again, but lost all the money that she put in there. So she had no choice but to double down and open 7 days a week, open for lunch and dinner, find other means of delivery, and now start to just work for the landlord. Because if she didn't do that, all her investment money, the stuff that you cannot take with you is sunk. So a lot of people who don't know, they'll just ask, why just move lah? Right? You cannot just move. It doesn't work that way. Once your investment is sunk, you're stuck there for 5-6 years.
So are you saying landlords are the problem?
Some landlords. I tell you what, shout out to my landlords. I got great landlords, right? I haven't always encountered great landlords, but the moment I smell a bad landlord, I don't work with them, and I only work with great people. So far, most of my landlords, apart from one, have been nothing but amazing. There's been one scumbag, and I fell into that trap many years ago.
How do you smell a bad landlord?
So, first things first, they're willing to work on what you call rent caps. So let's talk about this 3+3 or 2+2 or 2+4 or whatever, right? So it's quite common that if there is that sort of plus situation, a good landlord would be willing to say, okay, let's put a 15% cap increase.
Yep.
So meaning that at the end of this period, I can increase your rent, but I'll cap the increase at 15%. So you know how much you're paying. In my current situation, I know how much I'm paying for the first 5 years. I know how much I'm paying for the next 5 years. So my current configuration is 4+5. And I know exactly how much I'm paying now. And I know how much I'm paying when the 5 kicks in. So good landlords are willing to lock it down. They don't want to subject you to market conditions. My last landlord was the government, was a sub-government organization, and they would engage what you call independent valuers who will value how much you should be paying, and they'd submit that independent report to both of us, and then they'd let us propose from that report. So that's another good landlord.
So we're saying rent is a problem, but not always a problem? So
Nope.
not the major problem? Or
It is a major problem for
but-
many people.
Okay, but not, there are other factors.
Yes.
So let's talk about other factors. Like, Eunice, what are people in the industry telling you about their issues with why they can't sustain
I mean,
it?
like I said, so aside from the rent, the landlords, it would be the manpower. I think manpower would really be the biggest problem here, right? Because that adds up to your cost. And there are many people that I know they've even tried to pay like a lot of money, like, way more than market rate. They don't necessarily get the manpower either. And you hear lots of stories about how people just don't show up for work, and all that. And then the burden falls on everybody else who shows up, right? And then that's going to be one crazy service there, right? Because everyone's just running around, trying to fight fires, right? And then cover for someone else. And then you got to deal with all your ingredient costs, utilities, everything, right? So it's all these factors combined, and then where do you go from there, right? When you do all the math, and then you're not making enough to make up for all these costs. So there are a lot of people who will tell me that, like, sure, my restaurant may look very full, but am I actually making money?
Yeah.
Yeah, because for all, that I put into this dish, making for the ambience, everything that's gone into it, how much am I really earning from one service like this? Yeah.
So I want to talk about the other side, because in the conversation about businesses closing down, F&B businesses closing down, it's always like we are talking about landlords, we're talking about costs, but what about us? Okay, me as the diner, what do Singaporeans expect now, before COVID, like, are we expecting like cheaper prices, faster services, more trendy concepts? Are we like very fickle because there's so many like things to eat? Your take, Eunice.
Yes, we are very fickle. We are always looking for the next hottest thing, the newest place to have my, yogurt, right? We had a talk about this before, right? And it's always about chasing something new. That I don't think has changed. Even pre-pandemic, we've always been driven by trends, always the next shiny new thing. But I think maybe it's a lot more amplified now, right? Because like everyone's posting on social media. We want to be the first in line. So many people like you see in queues and all that. No issue, queuing up for
I wonder
hours.
where people have time to queue, but
people have amazingly a lot of time. Yeah.
Wait, I mean, for Bjorn, how does this affect your business if people are like hopping on trends, trendy foods?
I mean, my restaurant's 15 years old. We've struggled, and our biggest challenge every single day is how do we stay relevant? How do we appeal to these people and get them back time after time over the span of 15 years and more, right? While people are no problem queuing up for yogurt and spending $15 a cup, and then coming to my place spending $20 on lunch and complaining it's expensive. Where you get a plate of food and a drink for $20 and seeing it's expensive, So there's a lot of double standard going on with new businesses and established businesses. But again, I understand. I'm Singaporean as well. I understand how times are very tough. Look at COEs. COEs just went to a record high yesterday. Housing prices are crazy. So I think as Singaporeans, we're not very well off. We don't have a great amount of disposable income as other people in other cities do. Because people in other cities pay less for their cars, they pay less for their housing. So it leaves them more money to eat out. For us, we don't have a lot of money to eat out. We are asset rich, but we might be a bit more cash poor. That's how I feel about it. In Singapore, if you're a homeowner, you're asset rich but cash poor. Most of us.
So, I mean, one of the things that is happening right now when we talk about trends is that the hot thing now, to me, is, Chinese cuisine. Like, there's more. That's what I see everywhere I go. It's not just mala and hot pot. Yesterday, I got a lesson in the other cuisines like
Hunan
and Hebei
Hebei
and Yunnan.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to go check this out. But why are Singaporeans gravitating towards certain cuisines lately? Are they? Is it true that they are?
It is true. I mean, you see these big chains coming in and opening multiple outlets across the malls, very aggressive in their marketing, in their offering what does look like cheaper options. They're very good at keeping you engaged on their apps, for forever dropping discounts or, buy one, get one, some kind of good deal. And well, if I am looking for a good deal, that's where I would gravitate to, right? It's convenient, it's right there because they have an outlet right here, and then the next moment I'm buying something for $1, which in this day and age, where am I going to find?
Deal.
Yeah,
Yes.
It is a good deal, right? But I don't think it's just the Chinese brands. I think the other ones that are becoming very popular, and I guess that's because overall everyone's sucked into the whole K-wave. So lots of popular Korean restaurants that have come up, and well, that's I think simply also because China and Korea are the popular destinations now as well, right? I think they were recently marked as the new countries that Singaporeans love to travel to. I think China took over Japan or something like that. Yeah, so I think it's kind of reflective of that as well.
I'll just sum it up with 2 words, right? Cultural soft power. Is that 3 words?
I think
Yeah.
is it
Three
three
words.
words?
It's soft power. One word.
Exactly.
Anyway, it's cultural soft power. I mean, we see that with Korea, the whole K-pop wave. We see that now with China being a new travel destination, easing restrictions to travelers, giving these visas to Europeans and Americans and all that. All these travel vloggers. My YouTube feed now is flooded with travel vloggers from the West visiting China and saying how it debunks all the myths of Western media and all that, and how China is actually great, even nicer than Japan and all that kind of stuff. So I think cultural soft power wise, now is China's time. So it happened before with Japan, it happened before with Europe, it happened before with Australia.
Yeah.
We've seen all these, the whole Aussie cafe wave, we've seen the whole Japanese wave, we've seen the whole wave of French patisseries come in. So now it's just China. So everyone gets their turn. Yeah.
So how do you feel about that as a restaurant owner and chef trying to make menus work and appeal to, the palate of the moment?
It's okay. We can do it side by side. I pick, I do this, you do that. People don't eat the same thing every day. It's fine. From the day that I started my business and from the day that I was cooking for other people, all these trends were already there. We just worked alongside it. Yeah. You would be lucky if whatever you were working on suddenly became the trend.
Yeah.
But if it didn't, it's still okay. I have no issues with trends. Yeah.
So going back to why we're here, which is about the wave of closures and how, the market has so many options for diners now. What does the closures mean going forward, like in the next 5 years for our culinary scene? Because Singapore's always marketed as a food paradise. We have a nation of foodies, What, Bjorn, are we not?
No. Sorry, Singaporeans. I'm Singaporean. I'm true blue Singaporean. But I tell you what, we are not as adventurous as we think we are. I'll tell you that straight away.
We're not.
We're not.
I feel this personally. Why?
Yeah. Unpopular opinion. Give me the 1-star reviews if you want. But seriously.
No, they give me the 1-star reviews.
No. Direct them to me. Okay? Direct them to me. But seriously, Singaporeans, we think that we like certain cuisines. We think that we're open-minded, but you think about it. When you see Singaporeans travel to Thailand, what do they eat? They eat the same thing. When you see them travel to Korea, what do they eat? They eat the same thing.
Yep.
You see them travel to the same destinations.
Yep.
Right? They go back to Japan 3 times a year, and they eat at Ichiran Ramen. And they eat at all these same places. They don't venture out. They don't, they go to, the majority Singaporean Chinese go to Bangkok, eat Chinese food at Chinatown, eat shark's fin. And then I had a restaurant trying to sell Isan food once upon a time, which is food from the northeast,
Oh, yes.
And it didn't work because people always say Thai food, why you got no green curry, why you got no pad Thai?
Where's my tom yum?
Correct.
Yeah.
So Singaporeans are not open to regionality. A little bit of information is a very dangerous thing because you hang on to that little bit of knowledge and that's all you want. Same thing. I know Japanese food, give me my ramen, give me my tonkatsu, give me my tempura, that's it.
So you're saying that we just are creatures of comfort in how we eat and what we like.
We're not that open-minded to new things. Look at a wave of Latin restaurants. All the Latin restaurants that came in, the people that mainly supported them are our expat community, not the local community. Maybe a few foodies among the local community, but things like regional Latin cuisines cannot work. People will walk into a Colombian restaurant and say, "Where's my nachos?"
I know the place to get nachos. But yes, so I hear what you're saying. So how does this, is this also a reason why restaurants are closing down? Because they can't sustain a palate that's quite uniform?
I mean, look at our malls, right? Like, people call them cookie cutter for a reason, right? Because, you just need those few brands, essentially. That's where people are dining at, So I really, you want those that are doing something different. We love to try something new and all that, but will we constantly go back? Probably not. Because then after I've tried new thing, I'm going to go for another new thing, I'm going for another new thing. Or if not, I'm going to go back to my comfort food, right? Which is your ramen, your, and all that, your tom yum soup or my hawker food, right? And that's it. And then and you need that kind of sustained patronage, right? And you don't have that. Then what are you going to end up doing? You're going to end up constantly trying to do something new again, then just to, keep getting people to come back. How much can you really do before it's just not sustainable?
So going back to the closures, right? But I want to point out that actually there have been more businesses opening than closing. So there's,
Yes.
this year, I think up to August this year, there's 2,333
Yes.
new food businesses open, while 1,724 have closed. So technically, more open
Yes.
than closed, right? Is this just the ebb and flow of the nature of the business? Are we, crying a bit too loudly about the ones that have gone? I mean,
So I think, and we've written many stories about this before, right? Where we look at the numbers and all that. That actually has not changed over the past, if I'm not wrong, it was 20 years or something like that, right? There was 1 year that was an outlier, and other than that, it has always been openings outpacing closures, like barely even close in terms of the numbers. So yeah, I counted till August as well, it's around about there, right? And I think, we speak to like even like the academics about it and all that, they say the same thing, right? It's part and parcel of F&B. It's just that when you have so many more opening, in a way, naturally, you also have that many more closing as well. So maybe, and it's also, I feel, coming out of the pandemic. The pandemic, I feel, changed a lot of dining habits. It changed a lot of the way we eat, right, in general. Maybe we did a very good job of, keeping people at home. So much so that people are not dining out as much as before, and they are also not spending as much as they would, because I'm going to save all my money to go overseas and eat like a king, right? That I think is one big thing that has been brought up many times. And so it's and then you had like bars becoming F&B establishments because they needed to pivot, right? So I feel like it ends up to a point where everyone is kind of fighting for the same pie, because your bars need to serve food, your food needs to serve drinks, you're trying to keep people there. We don't necessarily hop anymore. Like, I would go to a restaurant for dinner, I would then go to a bar for drinks. I may or may not end up at a club, something like this, which might have been, quite a normal Friday night maybe for people.
Before COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's like, we wrote a story about how like Thursday is a new Friday night, because on Friday everyone's at home, working from home. And I think that hasn't really changed very much. It probably won't go away. Yeah, so then people had to like dish out like Thursday deals and Tuesday night deals and stuff like that just to get people coming in. But it's just this, I don't know, I feel like it's quite a vicious cycle essentially.
And a lot of people lost their jobs and then they go into food. So again, creates more entrance, So if food is always seen as one of those things that you can just easily learn and pick up. No one says I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to become an architect.
Exactly.
But everyone says I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to go and cook.
Yes.
I'm going to make my family recipe something and sell it somewhere, Because that seems like a low barrier to entry. It seems the most low barrier to entry. You don't need a qualification. Yeah. So that's why it's easy to join. There's also a lot of delusional people. I work as a consultant, and I'll tell people that your F&B profit margins, if you are successful, is about 5% of sales. And they're like, no, I done my P&L, I'll show you 20%, help me deliver 20%. And I'm like, no, I won't do that for you because I can't get that for you. And they'll say, oh, other consultants told me they can. I'm like, okay, please go with them, So there's a lot of delusional people coming from other industries as well who want to just try their luck. So that adds to the number of people who are opening. So as long as there's more people opening than closing, landlords will see no impetus to reduce the rents.
Yeah.
So the question, a very popular question is, when will the rents come down? My answer is probably never. It's like the price of housing. Unless there's some sort of major occurrence, it will continue going up.
So I'm glad you went back to the landlord issue, because we have a viewer who has this question, and the viewer asked, are the closures because of foreign brands coming in? So we spoke about that earlier, and this person pointed out that unlike residential properties where they have to pay buyer's stamp duty, right? They don't have to do so for commercial properties or rent. So should the government do something about it? What can
the government do about it? We don't have a communistic government, right? Unless we want a communistic system, there's nothing that the government can do about a free market situation. So if someone buys a property at a premium from the previous landlord, they have the right to charge a new rent.
Yeah.
And I've been affected by that before. I was a subtenant of a place where the whole building was bought by a new person. And the new person obviously bought it at a premium from the old person. So the rent that the old person was charging all the tenants was just nice to cover their mortgage, plus give them a bit of profit. The new fella who bought over paid a profit to the old guy, obviously needs to charge everyone a bit more. And I understand that. So we all had to move out. Am I upset about it? No, I'm not upset. I understand that the new landlord cannot operate at a loss lah. So these are just things like that. But I understand where the dissatisfaction comes from. I understand that people think that foreign companies and foreign entities are coming into Singapore buying property without ABSD and then becoming landlords and charging a lot. So I can understand where that comes from. And to some small degree, yeah, if it happens, then yes, it is a problem. But again, because we are not a communistic system, I don't see where and how the government can step in for this.
But hearing the woes of business owners, rent aside, dealing with the landlords aside, do you think the government should step in with measures to help businesses? Although I will caveat here, everyone's a private business owner, which is what you're going back to free market, right? But do you think that at this point when we're seeing so many closures, and not just in the F&B scene, should the government would you like the government to step in for business F&B owners?
I would, but like how? Like give me money? Like I mean, on what basis, right?
Rent cap, I don't know.
Yeah.
Even if you ask me how.
Yeah, rent cap.
Yeah, rent cap.
I think it goes back.
So unless there's a mandate onto price per square foot.
Yeah.
But again, that's not the problem. I think a lot of us are paying fair rents. The business is just not enough. We've seen a massive decline in business, and rent is not the biggest cost. The biggest cost is staffing.
The manpower.
Remember? We talked about rent. For me, I try and keep it under 10%. Other people might be happy to go up to 25% if they're in a very high prominent location in a mall or what. If they're at a bubble tea shop on the ground floor of a mall, they could be paying $50,000 a month, you know. I looked at a space last time. There's this building called Pomo on Seligi Road last time. Bubble tea shop, 25,000. Bubble tea shop, small kiosk, 25,000 a month rent. Imagine how many cups of bubble tea you have to sell. But that's not your biggest cost. Your biggest cost is labor. Labor, by percentage, for me, I want to keep a healthy company with staff who can take leave when they need to take leave, people who can be off when they're actually sick. My staffing cost is 55% of my sales.
So should the government come in there with manpower?
How? They can't tell all my employees to take less salary. It's just like that. The government can help by cutting levies, right? Because for every person that we hire on a foreign work pass, we have to pay the government levies. So I'm at a point where if I hire anyone from overseas a lot of overseas workers cherish their jobs, they do well, they take the job seriously, and I love my overseas employees very, 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 very much. And I'm paying the government an extra $1,100 per person per month for just like a tax to have these fellas. So yeah, if there's one way the government can help, it can be to cut the levies. Again, it just cuts it by a few thousand. Most people bleeding money are bleeding tens of thousands, not a few thousand. So it helps in a small way. It's not going to solve the problem, but it'll help in a small way, for sure. Cut levies. Thank you, government. Thank you.
I mean, one thing that I read was that it's harder to attract younger people because for some people it was a job that they did when they were in school and stuff like that, or in their younger days. But it's harder to attract younger people now. Is that also a solution in a way to like make it more attractive to them?
There was a whole wave of this celebrity chef thing going on back in the day. Jamie Oliver tried doing it in Australia with the TV shows and all that, trying to make cooking a slightly more glamorous profession. But I remember the days when I was a young fella, I'd come home from work from the kitchen at like 11 at night. I don't know why there was this, 8-year-old kid with his mother in a lift. We were going up the lift together, and the mom literally said to him in Chinese, "If you don't study, you become like this guy next time." So I was wearing my chef jacket. Wow. I was in the lift. And I was a bit shocked, but I actually looked at the kid. I said, "Yeah, study." It's not an occupation that's particularly glamorous still, and we take a lot of crap from people. Yeah. The problem is we take a lot of crap from people, and it takes a certain person to stay in the job after taking all that crap from people. So it's hard. It really is very, very hard. Again, just to give you an idea of how hard and how costly it is, for a long time I was trying to I didn't want to use a dishwashing company, so I was trying to hire a local dishwasher. I was trying to give a job to someone local who, we advertised for months and we went up to a $4,500 pay for a dishwasher. No takers. We advertised
Not a
for
single
6
one?
months. A lot of applicants.
Okay, but
But everyone said, I don't want to work Saturday and Sunday. Or I want to work mornings and afternoon. I don't want to work at night. And this is for a $4,500 dishwashing job. You know? So now we're paying $6,000 to a dishwashing company, which is, imagine that, $6,000 a month just for dishwashing. You know? And for $4,500, no locals wanted to take the job. And if anyone's saying, hey, where I want, my question is, where were you back then? How come you never apply? You know? So don't come and tell me now, I want. I tried already. You never see my ad. You know?
well, Eunice, hearing this,
Yes.
what's your take on the whole situation of what can be done to help, F&B businesses?
Well, this.
It's a very big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, many different moving parts. I mean,
Yeah, and I mean, there are young people in the industry. It's not that they are not. But they also do things differently, right? So, I met quite a lot of them when they doing like cafes, for example, and I think that's actually really suitable for them because, they do things their way. It actually makes the scene a little bit more interesting as well. In terms of like the food that they offer. The whole matcha wave, I'm pretty sure, is all fueled by them. That's not a bad thing, right?
Strawberry matcha.
Yeah, exactly. It's
no,
all
why?
about the
We'll just
matcha,
drink
right?
The matcha on its own. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah, but I think also they also want to be their own bosses, right? In a way, how long that can last, I really am not sure. There are many chefs that I know that have been in the industry roughly around the same time as myself, and many of them have already done the whole chef owner dream and not sustainable. Okay, I'm gonna join a big group, because at least by now I have a family, right? I have young kids to feed. I need stable income, preferably saner hours, right? So that's where I'm gonna go, and then that's it. That's another closure right there, because it's easier, right? In a way, I get a nice head chef job, but I don't need to worry about the day-to-day, keeping jobs.
Or losing money.
Losing
my own
money. Exactly. Yes, right? So you see them go into big companies, yeah.
So, Bjorn, is there a secret sauce to succeeding in the industry? Like, I mean, you've been here did you think you would stay this long?
No.
Oh,
15 years is a damn long time.
are you ready to leave?
I'm ready to go anytime.
He says.
Yeah, I was
And
going to say.
then the
stay
next
only.
time, 6 months later, he'd be like, ooh, we're opening something new.
So, yeah, if you want me to, replicate the success I had at Artichoke, I can't, because every micro environment is different. I think there were a lot of little things that just lined up. You have to be very lucky. So I would say that I'm not very smart, but I'm very lucky. And the majority of, the statistics, right? About 3 out of 10 businesses, F&B businesses, last more than 2 years. The other 7 will close, and they've made losses up to the point they close. So whoever invested in them didn't get their money back. So they could be owing a friend money, a family member money, or they could be owing an institution money. Yeah. So I can't tell you how I did it, because there were a lot of little things out of my control that just lined up. So I'm damn lucky. I'm really damn lucky. As a consultant, I never promise people, a certain percentage, but I can say that I'm there to help reduce your risk, because you don't have to go through the learning curve that all of us are going through. You're bypassing that learning curve by engaging a consultant who's done all this before. But I can't guarantee you success. I can't guarantee you 20% profit margins, because those don't happen. Even if you're successful, you can look forward to 5 to 7%.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like that person really riled you up. Like, where did this 20%?
There's multiple people.
Okay.
Multiple people come to me every month and tell me they want 30% or whatever.
Yeah.
They come from another country and they got 30% there. They want to do it here. And they're all these finance bros who are like, correct, or tech bros, or always the tech bros. Always tech bros. I got a system, we got to automate shit, and stuff like that.
AI.
Sorry, I can't say shit on
No.
this.
Okay, so we'll come back to the tech bros in a minute, but I want to ask you, because you mentioned overseas, and you've done business overseas.
Yep.
So just to tell our viewers, you have currently have a restaurant in Penang.
I have a restaurant and wine bar in Penang.
And there's another one in Bali called Babaji's.
I have a restaurant in Bali. And I've also opened 2 other restaurants for other people in Jakarta.
So
And one in Pakistan.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tapping on those experiences, what's different about those industries in Singapore's F&B scene?
Okay, so in many countries, there's one or two things that's cheap, right? You got the big three, okay? Food costs, labor costs, rent. These are the big three. Food costs, labor costs, rent. In Singapore, all three are high.
Yeah.
Okay? In Indonesia, for example, rent is low, labor is low, but food cost is damn high. Because in Indonesia, a lot of like Western ingredients are imported subject to taxes and all that. So one of them is high. In Australia, for example, your labor cost is damn high because of minimum wage. But rents and food cost is much lower because it's an agricultural country with a lot of space. If you don't need a rent in a very capital city like Melbourne, Sydney, a big city, you don't mind being deeper in the suburbs, you can actually get very good rent in Australia. So there are countries where, or most countries actually have one or two of the big three that's doable. In Singapore, all three are big. So that's why it's harder in Singapore. So most of us are actually operating at a loss. If you're successful in other markets, like people say in Vietnam, you can get 30%. In Indonesia, heyday. In Indonesia, my friends there who are not opening restaurants and operating at 30% net profit were closing them because they felt that they were failing.
Even at 30%?
30% was their benchmark for success in Indonesia, and this was just maybe about 3 years ago. And all my friends there were still doing 30%. Today, in Indonesia, my friends are all suffering. They're starting to close businesses. For the first time, big groups are starting to close bars, big groups are starting to close restaurants and clubs because...
Competition? Or...
No, global spending.
Right.
Global spending. I got the luxury traveler. My restaurant is in the busiest part of Seminyak in Bali. My average spend per head is $9 Singapore. Because people under order. And these are like well-heeled people, You give them the chance to order more, they just don't want to. If there's cheaper options, even the very rich people are more cash savvy these days. They'll go somewhere cheaper for a beer, even if it's a warung. So I think it really comes down. I don't blame anyone. It's just the way the economy is working these days. Yeah, spending is really cutting everywhere in the world. We're seeing this not just in Singapore.
Okay. So I'm going to end off with just two quick questions for each of you. So going back to Tech Bros, Bjorn, any advice for people who don't have VC money or private equity backing, and they still want to get into the F&B scene? What's your advice for them?
You can still do it. Just manage your expectations. Don't think that it's going to be glamorous. Don't think you're going to get rich on it. Again, if you're the 3 out of 10 people that make it past the first 2 years, and you're not one of the 7 that actually lost your money and, taking 3 jobs now to pay back your loss. If you're one of the 3 that went through, you're probably making 5 to 7% of your sales. So on a $100 table, you're making $5 to $7. So if you're okay with that, and that's the definition of success, and you're working, 70 hours a week, you don't mind that, that's fine, then go ahead. Yeah.
So Eunice, should diners cry when their favorite restaurant, be it a homegrown restaurant, closes down? Should they cry? Loudly on social media. I'm saying this because, every time something closes, then we'll get the eulogies.
Yes.
And when I went there when I was 5 kind of stories. It's like, okay, but you didn't go.
Too little,
it's like
too
your
late.
dishwasher, you didn't apply. Yeah.
Yes.
So what would you tell diners?
Go out and support, right? The brands that, you love, you've grown to love, right, over the years. Sure, by all means, try the latest, thing in town, right? But I think it's important to always go back to a lot of the familiar names that you grew up with, with your parents, your grandparents, It's something that's gonna happen a lot more, right? As we start to see more and more, especially the heritage brands, they just don't continue because they have no one. They either have no one, they're not gonna sell out, they're not gonna, they're just gonna close, and I think that's fine. But I think, everything comes to an end at some point, right? But before they close, please don't wait till like the last, till someone posts their last hurrah, before the 1 month, and then they end up getting slammed for all kinds of things.
Because this could have saved them, like, well, maybe, I don't know about
Yeah.
saving them, but you could have given them some business in the,
Yes.
not at the end.
Yes, correct. But I think that's also a very it's a reflex, right? It's like, oh, it's closing. I need to go now. You know? And I think not everyone gets potentially bailed out like wala wala. You know, so yes, suddenly there was a whole outpouring of grief when they announced their pending closure. Thankfully, their landlord seemed to have, figured something out with them. Not everyone gets that,
Second chance,
right? And I don't even know how long that is going to last for them, because it's very obvious, like, just purely going by numbers may be very arbitrary, but the bad news of them potentially closing versus oh, hey, we're still around, we're still staying, right? Definitely more people read and shared that bad news as opposed to we're staying.
here.
And that's very scary, honestly, right? Because, like, it's one of those that, oh, you're going to be here. Oh, okay, lor, then you're here. Then will people continue to go? And then will we get another wave of, like, oh, actually, because suddenly you're here.
Yeah. All those people who started saying, oh no, I haven't been in 5 years. Now I'm not going to come for the next 5 years again.
Yeah. So, I think we're also very worried about that, becoming hopefully not a problem, but it's something that we need to watch. Having said that, I think also, based on a lot of the comments that we've seen, let's just say that some brands, if their time is up, their time is up. It could also mean that they haven't, like what Bjorn said, stayed relevant. They have not kept their standards up. That's why people have, fallen away and gone to somewhere else. So I do also think that the brands do need to pay attention. I mean, there is a way to stay relevant, whether it's just always doing a consistent job, of your food. There are many brands, they don't even need any publicity. They're never in the media. They fly, they have their constant pool of regulars, and very happy for those, right? And I think that is something that we need to pay more attention to, So there'll be people, sometimes we write about certain brands that have not been around that we have not written about for a long time, simply because they don't do any media publicity at all. But sometimes we highlight, certain icons, like for SG60, we highlighted a lot of, like, all these heritage icons. And then maybe people will be like, oh yes, I totally forgot about this place. Oh yeah, maybe I should revisit them now. So I do think sometimes we need to do that a bit more. Yeah, and then that also keeps the food standards up, right? Like, I know F&B players have a lot on their plates, but, they can't let standards slide as well. Singaporeans, very fussy.
Discerning, very
Right?
discerning, very knowledgeable and discerning. Yeah.
So you just need one bad meal.
Yep.
I'm never coming back.
Okay.
Whether you're new or old, like, yeah.
All right. On that note, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, Bjorn, Eunice.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming by. And all right, and that's it from the usual place today. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss the next episode. And if you have thoughts on today's episode, do drop a comment on YouTube or talk to me on Instagram, and Bjorn and Eunice as well on Instagram. But I'm at the Usual Place podcast, so drop me a note there. I'll see you next week on Thursday at noon.